If you were a kid back in the 1990s, hearing Hollywood was making a movie out of one of your favorite video games was exciting news. They're making a Mortal Kombat movie? Holy smokes! Whoa, a Street Fighter movie? Get out of here! Whoa, a Super Mario Brothers movie? Stop! No, really, stop!
Holy shit!
But out of the handful of video game movies that came out in the 90s, there's one that doesn't get nearly as much attention as it should. 1994's Double Dragon. It's my favorite movie adapted from a video game, and it confuses me why more people aren't familiar with it. It has everything the other video game movies have, legitimate martial arts like Mortal Kombat. It features a charismatic villain like from Street Fighter. And just like Super Mario Brothers, two lead characters who are brothers but don't look at all related. So, what happened? Why did Double Dragon fade away into obscurity while the others didn't?
Double Dragon.
If you're not familiar with the original Double Dragon arcade game, well, here it is. You insert a coin, you move your character, either Billy or Jimmy Lee, from left to right, you punch, you kick, and that's about it. The only real story is that you're basically just rescuing Billy's girlfriend Marion from thugs. So, since the games were a little light on lore, the creators of the Double Dragon movie adaptation had to wrap the concept of beating people up into a 90-minute story. Double Dragon follows brothers Jimmy and Billy Lee in a post-mega-earthquake version of Los Angeles, now called New Angeles. The two brothers come into possession of one half of an ancient, magical medallion. The other half is possessed by the very evil, very corporate gang leader named Kogashuko, and he wants both halves to gain total control over the city.
Find me the other half now.
Kogashuko sicks every goon in town on Billy and Jimmy, hoping to get a hold of the other half of the medallion. The cops are no help. They've essentially given the city over to the gangs, so Billy and Jimmy team up with a small resistance group to keep the medallion out of Kogashuko's hands, leading to fighting, explosions, and good old-fashioned toot humor. The cast is probably my favorite part about this movie. Mark Dacascos and Scott Wolf have very believable chemistry. They sell the idea of being bickering brothers, even if they couldn't look or act much different from each other. And their differences work well. Jimmy is disciplined and serious and is played by Mark Dacascos, who has years of martial arts experience, while Billy, a goofball, is played by Scott Wolf, an actor who does not know martial arts, and so has to do all of the Bugs Bunny style fighting.
Look out!
I love Scott Wolf in this too. A comic relief character like Billy could get annoying fast, but he really keeps it fun. And Robert Patrick as Kogashuko is everything you'd want out of a villain. He's so over the top with the knuckle cracking,
You don't know this shit.
the sunglasses,
Rest! Not until I have my shades on.
he delivers lines with that menacing Robert Patrick style scowl, but then he'll just as quickly say some hammy line.
You think I'm bad? Where do you meet my lawyers?
And then there's the movie's whole visual style, I guess, for lack of a better term. The world building and set design, it's all so amazing, even if it was, at times, kind of strange. Like, at what point in the writing were they like, let's give Billy and Jimmy a rocket car, and make sure that it runs on garbage. Make sure the bad guy has bleached hair, he wears a corporate kimono that he never changes out of, and he'll also have this magical medallion that allows him to possess people. Maybe bring in this villain from the game, make him look like this, and then mutate him into this. You just get hit over the head with crazy thing after crazy thing, and all from this. We're not even done yet. I love how the movie just plays these in-universe commercials for a company that sells these giant jacks that help support your house during an aftershock of the big quake.
If you didn't buy from us, you don't know Jack City.
I love how the gang members all have their own little themes and costumes. I love how the movie illustrates Kogashuko's grip on the city by having his brand appear quietly in a few scenes. I never noticed this Kogashuko banner until a recent rewatch of the movie. It's never referenced by any of the characters in the scene. It's just set dressing helping to tell the story, so they didn't really have to print it out, but they did. The thought and effort that the production put into fleshing out the entire world is a lot more than you'd expect for a movie with a budget of about only $8 million. I'd say they do just as good a job, if not better, than their contemporary video game film, Super Mario Bros., which had a budget of almost $50 million. And with the evil corporate-style villain, these satirical news segments, and just all the grime and graffiti covering a dystopian city overflowing with ne'er-do-wells, it feels like Double Dragon has a similar level of cleverness as something like RoboCop.
I'd buy that for $1.
Except instead of the hard R rating of an ultra-violent action movie like RoboCop, Double Dragon has the soft PG-13 rating of a kids movie with action. And unfortunately, that's where the movie's problems start to begin.
Caution. Watch your step. Watch your step.
The various minds that brought this movie to life were not all in sync when it came to the overall vision. First in line was producer Don Murphy, who was the reason the Double Dragon concept was made into a movie in the first place.
One day, I was playing Double Dragon 3. It just had me thinking, well, there's two brothers, and they're teaming up to rescue the girl. I just wasn't exactly sure what the movie would be, but I thought it was a good idea.
So, no clear idea, but Don Murphy saw potential, a popular arcade game that could be turned into a marketable movie. When Imperial Entertainment got involved, a company known for bringing Jean-Claude Van Damme into the mainstream, the direction was pretty clear.
Once we had the deal closed with Imperial, I think we thought we were going to make a gritty martial arts film. We thought it was going to be PG-13 at the very least.
Writers Paul Dini and Neil Shusterman were then brought on to develop the concept into a script. They created a lot of the story's mythology, but ultimately wrote an urban fantasy movie that was just too expensive. And while this is happening, another producer at Imperial named Alan Schechter brought in James Yukich to direct the movie, who was known at the time for being a successful music video director for the likes of Genesis, Michael Bolton, even David Hasselhoff. We've got the power, we've got the Lord. Now, producer Alan Schechter is a very important figure in this story. Before he was a producer for Double Dragon, he was an assistant to Joel Silver, who was at the time known for producing some of the greatest action movies ever.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
And so Alan wanted to make a movie that had the same kind of action as a Joel Silver style movie. James Yukich, on the other hand, wanted to make a very different movie than what Alan had pictured. Here's him talking about it in an interview with another YouTuber named Christian Genzel.
Alan was the producer that wanted it to be an adult action film, where I thought this could be a great kids movie. Not like a sappy Disney kids movie, but like an intelligent kids movie. And by the fact that Alan brought me in, it was very difficult for me to say, Alan, I don't want to do it your way. So I was like caught in the middle.
You can find a link to the whole interview down in the description below. Christian talks to a lot of filmmakers. His channel is definitely worth checking out. So the vision of what Double Dragon was meant to be was not in sync. So to help give the script some focus, they brought in 2 new young writers, Michael Davis and Peter Gould. Peter Gould you might know as the co-creator of Better Call Saul. But as you can imagine, while trying to focus the story, bringing in 2 new writers doesn't exactly help focus the movie's tone.
There was some disagreement inside the organization about which way to go. So it was a very intense period of writing and rewriting and going in and getting notes from Jim Yukich, the director, and
Well, we got notes from everybody,
yes.
And that was part of the problem.
I'd say by the time the Michael and Peter script came in, it was pretty clear what the movie was going to be. The movie was going to be kind of some child's nightmare.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a child's nightmare. I mean, after all, the movie had no talking toilets with fangs that tried to eat me. But sure enough, the tone of the movie that made it to the screen never quite landed in one spot. In parts, you feel like you're watching a movie for kids. The next moment, it's the biggest explosion of all time. Then it's a horror movie all of a sudden. and then there's some weird sexual joke.
You can understand a criticism of the varied tones in the film, of it being very, very goofy at times and really taking itself a little more seriously at others.
It was as much a confused tone as it was as much a confused target audience.
And it didn't help that the movie got a PG-13 rating.
I think it was PG-13, and so the kids that would have really loved the movie didn't really have access to it.
Director James Yukich actually offered to cut some of the more mature parts to get a PG rating so younger kids could go see it, but the producers refused, thinking a PG-13 rating would make it hipper. Instead, it doomed the movie by making it off limits to what might have been their largest audience.
Alan didn't want to fix it because he thought PG-13 would be kind of hipper and cooler because, then adults and teenagers would think, oh, it's not just a Disney movie. And I tried to compromise, and at the end, you can't compromise between people that are at opposite ends of the spectrum. Pretty soon you end up with, like, nothing.
But did it turn into nothing? If you can get past the movie's competing tones, the awkward one-liners,
"Hey, dream on. You kicked Kogapuko's butt."
and Andy Dick,
"Oh, boy, you two are crazy."
then you'll find Double Dragon to be a fun, very worthwhile movie to watch. And I like to think that the uneven tone feels kind of appropriate for this movie, because the two lead characters are competing halves. It's kind of fitting. And considering we're living in a time where algorithms largely determine what stories you see, Double Dragon feels special because it was made by a group of filmmakers who were trying to tell an interesting story in the best way they thought possible. Did all of them fail? Or did all of them succeed?
Everybody had kind of a different movie that they thought it should be. The movie's a mishmash, which we've been complaining about, but sometimes a mishmash can be fun.
Whatever the case, Double Dragon is a unique viewing experience, and one that makes me feel like a kid again every time I watch it. Unlike Super Mario Bros., which is actually a child's nightmare.
You gotta try this thing.
Arcade feels like a relic of the 90s. Did the movie actually deliver on the promise of virtual reality, or did it forget to make it fun?